Altoff. Carpenter. Dalton is absent. Mattson.
Here.
McCusker.
Yes.
And Mayor Robinson.
Here. Can everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could you get everybody to continue standing? Hold a moment of silence for those children that were shot down in Florida last week. Thank you.
Thank you. It's bad. That sucked.
At this time, the chair will take a motion to approve the agenda with one exception. We need to do an update on the bank signature cards and want to add that as item 8D.
Move to approve the agenda with that inclusion.
Second.
Motion by Cedar, second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Moves on to item 5 this evening, public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda before speaking. Please give your name and address for the minutes, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Adam Peters, 700 West State Street. I forgot to wear my shirt that's going to be coming for the election this next year because this city staff is not doing their job. You guys have given away over $1 million to that winery with tax breaks. And if you think he's going to stay here for 15 years, yeah, right. My other concern, you guys keep saying it's going to help everybody out. The guy's going to put a pizza joint in there. Is that going to help Dudley? No. Are they going to go to Eltoff's and buy a shovel and then go drink wine? No. You guys are giving this to the winery for what? And my other complaint, this whole cleanup should not be our responsibility. It is his property. He can pay for his own cleanup. I have talked to people around this town that have lived here for a long time, and they do not appreciate what is going on. There's no reason. There's going to be chemicals under that ground, and it's going to cost money to clean this up, and it should not be on us taxpayers to pay for it. This guy has had the biggest break off of any company in this town. And he employs part-time employees that don't give back to this town as far as taxes, buying things, everything. Why are we giving it to the winery? I'm going to keep pushing for a wine tax. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to approach the council tonight on public input?
My name is Arlen Lamb, live over in Farmington, representing or am a member of the Farmers Market. We have been up in the air as to where we're going to be this coming year. A decision needs to be made, whether the city is going to force us to move down to Grandpa's Garage or if we're going to be able to stay where we're at. We've seen a number of our customers, they prefer that we stay where we're at. Some of them are from the senior center just across the river. It's a walking distance for them. Nobody in the market really wants to be moved down to Grandpa's Garage. One of the things that we've seen that's come to our attention is Dave is going to be charging $200 a stall for the season. Some of the vendors don't come all season long, and they don't make that much money. That would probably take a good portion of all of their profits. So I'd like you to take that into consideration when you decide whether or not the market needs to be moved. And I want to iterate that we need to know now, sooner than later, because it takes time to prepare for the markets, where they're going to be, in that as far as being a producer and a vendor goes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the council under public input? If not, we will move on to item 6 this evening, which are public hearings. The first one is Resolution 2326, certifying unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes. Linnell?
Thank you, Mayor. Is the quarterly public hearing that we hold to certify the unpaid utility charges to the property taxes. This hearing gives those that are on that list an opportunity to talk to the council about that if they so choose. If it remains unpaid, they will be certified to the payable 2019 property taxes.
Thank you. So at this time, we will open up the public hearing for resolution number 2326, certifying unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes. Is there anyone wishing to address the council for the unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes? Is there anyone wishing to address the council for the unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes? Is there anyone wishing to address the council on the unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes? If not, at this time, we will close the public hearing, and the chair will take a motion to approve resolution number 2326, certifying unpaid utility charges to be collected with taxes.
So move.
Second.
Motion by John, second by Ken. Any discussion?
Seems to be down a little bit, doesn't it?
Yep, it looks like it's gone down
gone down.
from last time.
Are credit cards helping out, or?
We have seen an increased use in the credit card usage for these. I haven't verified to see if the usage is actually coming from those that might typically appear on this list or not. So I'm not sure if the reduction is a direct result of that, but it might be.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Moves us on to item 6B, which is Resolution 2327, ordering improvement and preparation of plans for the East Side 2 project.
All right, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, concerning the 2018 street project, or the East Side 2 project, we're having the improvement hearing, which is a step in the process of the assessment process, which allows cities to assess a portion of the benefit back to the properties. Back in last fall, the council ordered the feasibility report be prepared for the project. We presented that in December. You accepted it and set the hearing. Tonight, we're having the improvement hearing. I'll run through the project, the scope, the schedule, the costs, the preliminary assessments at this time, and then open it up, ask you open up the public hearing. We'll take comment on the improvements. At the close of the public hearing, we'll ask you to decide on the resolution in your packet if we move ahead, which the next step would be to prepare the plans. And once the plans were, should we do that, plans are prepared, we'd come back, get authorization to advertise, we get the bids back, and then we step down the process. So after tonight, by no means are moving down the road to a project, but it's just another step on the path. So up here tonight is on the overhead, figure 1, just kind of shows a general overview. Back in 2009, the city prepared a capital improvement plan that identified 6 major reconstruct projects. West Side 1 was completed in 2011. East Side 1 was completed in 2013. West Side 2 in 2016, and now the council is considering East Side 2, which is generally Minnesota Street from 2nd to the schools, and Mill Street down off of Grove heading to the west, and a portion of Grove Street. So as part of that capital plan in 2009, 9, the pavements were rated at that time on the streets in town, and part of that information was to use to rank the projects in the order that the council's been tackling them. You can see the project area here, not the best contrast, but we've got pavements that rank anywhere from 3 to a 7 in the project area. That's one component that leads these projects to get prioritized. The other component is the water and sewer mains underneath the streets. Those factors all put together led us to rank the project as we did. This one is the next one on the list as far as need concerning the infrastructure. So we'll jump to this figure with the aerial. So this generally shows the project area. Here we've got Minnesota Street and Second on the left, all the way down to the school. And then we've got Almond, the 2 blocks of Almond between Water and State. Grove.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
none of us can really see what you're pointing at there. That is.
Can we turn down the light a little bit?
Sure, we can try this one over here. Yep. Okay, so we've got the project limits of Minnesota Street from Second down to the school. And we've got the 2 blocks of Almond from Water to State, the block of Grove and Vine from Minnesota to State, Oak Street from State all the way up to Water, and then Cedar from Minnesota to State and a little bit to the south of State, and then a stub of First Street here. And then we've got Mill Street from Grove back east towards the Oak Street right-of-way. These project areas are what we call the reconstruct area. That's where the water and sewer mains would be replaced along with the service lines. Storm sewer would be upgraded and added, and then a new curb and gutter would be installed and a new pavement surface on all of that. The blue area of Grove Street and the 2 cul-de-sacs was included as a mill and overlay, meaning the infrastructure there is newer. We don't anticipate issues with the underground infrastructure, maybe some spot curb repair. And then we'd take the top 2 inches of the street off and put a new lift on the top. The streets in those areas have some potholes. They aren't the best ride-wise, but structurally they're sound enough that we could put an overlay over the top and get some extended life out of them. In the reconstruct area, the sanitary sewer is clay pipe, which was used back in the day. Clay pipe served its life, but now it's an I&I issue. Water gets into it. Tree roots get into it, and the city Public Works has issues sometimes cleaning it. The new sewer would be a plastic PVC with concrete manholes, and the service stubs would be replaced from the main out to the property line. The water main in the reconstruct area is all cast iron pipe, 4 to 6 inch. The new water main, we'll discuss the material. We've used mostly ductile in the past. The city has used PVC water. Would be at least a 6 inch, maybe an 8 inch in size, the minimum. Water main, for a municipal water main in the state of Minnesota, needs to be at least a 6 inch in diameter, and we would loop wherever we could with as far as dead ends. I also mentioned the water and sewer services would be replaced in the reconstruct area. It's not uncommon to find a shared service, meaning 2 houses use one set of services out to the street. When that's uncovered during the project, we bring it to the homeowner's attention. We put a dedicated water and sewer service in for each parcel. And it's up to the property owner to reconnect, if they indeed have a shared service with their neighbor, to connect to their new ones at that time. On the last project, the council did make some accommodations to allow those costs to be assessed back to the property, to allow people to uncombine a service should they have a shared service. That's something that we would discuss further on the process. Then, same with Mill Street, we'd be a water and sewer replacement and services out to each lot. And then we put the street back together like I mentioned. On Minnesota, we do have sidewalk that runs pretty much the entire length on the north side. The intent would be to leave that in place except where it's impacted by the street construction. So at every cross street, we're gonna have to take that out and put a new ADA compliant ped ramp in. And wherever the water and sewer service to an individual house may cross the sidewalk, we'll have to take out that portion of sidewalk, replace the services back to the property line, because generally the property line's behind the sidewalk, closer to the house, and then replace that piece of sidewalk. A portion of Minnesota on the west end does have sidewalk on the south, and again on the far east. in the report, we don't intend on adding sidewalk to the entire west side unless the council, or excuse me, south side, unless the council should direct us. So the side streets, there again, we don't have sidewalk, and no new sidewalk is planned as part of these improvements. Storm sewer, a large portion of the project area does not have storm sewer, meaning the water now runs down the street for several blocks before it gets to a storm sewer system, or just kind of sits in some corners until it disappears. Here again, we've got the project area. The existing storm sewer, I apologize, is a little light to see, but the blue areas is where we plan new storm sewer. So on the far west end of Minnesota, we would extend storm sewer from Stecken up towards Bridge, kind of capture that water so it's not running in the street for several blocks. This time of year, when we get the snow melt, that water staying in the street is both hazardous for icing, but also is detrimental to the pavement life. In the 2013 project, storm sewer was brought up Bridge Street and also up Vine. We would extend that storm sewer in Minnesota and up Cedar. Right now, there's an outlet from State Street that dumps stormwater right on the street and runs overland north down Cedar, causing some of the pavement issues we have on Cedar. We'd run new water or storm sewer up there, collect that, keep that all in a pipe so we don't have that situation. Similarly, over by the park, we have an also pipe that daylights onto Vine Street and the parking area, and that runs several blocks overland before it gets back into a storm sewer. We'd correct that issue too. And down at Grove and at Almond and by the school, we'd add more catch basins at those intersections just to more efficiently collect that storm water, get it in the storm sewer system rather than having it sit on the street and run overland. Street widths. The city's residential street width requirement is 32 feet from curb to curb. This is a little bit harder to see, but I'll just point it out. So the middle one shows our typical side streets, First, Mill, Almond, Grove, Vine. 32 feet gives you a 10-foot driving lane and a 6-foot parking lane. And then in an 80-foot right-of-way gives us about 24 feet to the right-of-way from the curb. That's the city standard, works well in most residential areas. Now on Minnesota Street, as most of the residents probably know, you probably see more traffic with the school and the park, and it is wider than 32 feet. It is about 38 feet, which gives us a 10-foot driving lane, but a 9-foot parking lane gives you a little extra room. The report intends to replace Minnesota Street at its current width. I don't think narrowing it up, it does any good. It's too much traffic on there with the parade and the school. So Minnesota Street will generally go back where it is now, where the curb is in front of your house. Within a foot, it'll be back there at that same width, unless for some reason you really want it narrowed. Tonight would be the time to bring that up, but I think the council has already discussed. We'll keep Minnesota Street at the width it is just because of the traffic it sees. And it gives you more room for movement, more room for parking on the street and those types of things. Again, we've got the sidewalk behind the boulevard on the north and in certain portions on the south side.
Hey, Greg, while you bring this up, and I got the old age thing, I'll probably forget if I don't ask you right now, is should we be considering angle parking at the East Side Park?
Well, there is angle parking on Oak and on Vine, I believe now. And so it'd just be on Minnesota. I don't think we'd have the width, and I'm not aware of a parking issue.
Well, I
with all
mean,
that.
to take it away from, not make the street wider, I'm just talking about taking away from the park to get more parking at the East Side Park. That's all I'm saying.
If there's a need, that's something that could be incorporated into the plans. I've not to date heard a need for more parking there or not.
Right.
It would be possible. We do plan on doing a couple of the alleys between Grove and Vine and between Cedar and Oak. The alleys would go back at roughly 12 to 16 feet, whatever the width they are, with a new pavement surface that would generally shed the water to each side, but no curb and gutter. So the alleys would go from gravel to pavement if they are ones that we're going to do, and the ones we would be doing have water and sewer in them now. We aren't doing any ones that don't. We only plan to replace the alleys where we have water and sewer that need to be done for upgrading the pipes underneath. As part of that, and in the past, we've paved those alleys when we were done as part of this type of project.
And some of them alleys, there's been a couple of them up there that have got drainage problems, so we kind of try to solve that. And then would there be a manhole put in there or something to, I know, it's one of those things where it got built back in the 60s and then we moved the road up higher and now
Sure.
it drains. So I mean, we're addressing this too, right?
Yes,
Thank
the alleys would drain out, whether to the curb or if we needed to add storm sewer, that'd be part of the final design process once we got more into it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the infrastructure, the improvements and what we're doing. I think I'll go back to this first figure here. So the project as shown here and as discussed tonight is about 4.2 million in your report, in your project. On past projects, the city has assessed per policy 20% of the improvements back to the benefiting properties. What's shown on this figure, all the highlighted parcels are the ones that would be assessed for these improvements should the council move ahead. Again, you'd be assessed 20% on the unit basis. On these projects, the council has in the past used the per unit or per lot basis. For the larger lots, such as the apartments down here in the school, we just apply the minimum lot width for that zoning and come up with a number of lots that would fit there. And so none of this is done on a front foot. Every lot, generally the use is the same. Everyone gets the same assessment, one per lot, unless it's a large lot like you talked about.
That includes corner lots.
Yep, correct. So if you look close, some of these corner lots on Minnesota Street are not highlighted. Those were assessed in the 2013 project, and per policy, if an improvement is done on an adjacent side within 10 years, you aren't assessed a second time. So several of the folks on the north side of Minnesota, while having to go through the inconvenience of two projects, are only getting charged for one of them. So the schedule. Tonight, we're having the improvement hearing. If the council moves ahead after the end of the hearing and orders the preparation of plans and specs, we'd work on them here February, March, come back maybe the second March meeting with some draft plans, a little tighter construction estimate, get authorization to advertise for bids. We'd advertise in April, open bids probably late April, come back at the first May meeting with a apparent low bidder. At that time, we could re-estimate the assessments based on the construction costs. Again, the assessments are based on the actual cost to the city at this point. They're only based on the estimated cost of construction that we've used from previous years in similar projects. The assessments, the actual assessments will be based on the actual cost to the city, so the bid from the contractor and the associated work. And after that, at that meeting, council moves ahead, award a contract, then we would start construction. In the past, the city's always had an open house with the residents. Once they've awarded the project and we know the contractor's schedule, we'd have an open house, get pertinent numbers, contact information out to the folks in the schedule. Generally, the construction is wrapped up in September, especially here with Minnesota Street and the school. We'd try to have that first lift of blacktop on Minnesota Street by Labor Day, if at all possible. And then the associated cleanup, restoration, sodding, final lift of blacktop would take place and everything would be wrapped up probably by early October. And then the city would have the assessment hearing in October. Again, that'd be an opportunity for a public hearing, for an opportunity to speak to the assessments. And then at the close of that hearing, they would certify the assessments to go on the taxes starting in 2019. So based on the construction estimates in your packet, the estimated assessment per lot in the reconstruct area along Minnesota and the side streets is $7,550. The mill and overlay assessment in the blue area here along Grove, that is $1,688. Again, that's the estimated assessment right now based on my estimated construction cost. Just for some background, 2016 West Side 2, the report had an proposed assessment of $7,300. We got all done with the project, those came in at $5,500. 2013, the assessments in the report were $6,400. Final ones after the construction project were $4,900, so just under $5,000. So the estimated assessments are kind of in the ballpark with what we've seen. Obviously, construction costs keep going up, but when we put a project of this size together, we typically get good bids. The city's proximity to the metro helps. We get good bituminous prices because there's a lot of competition in that market and stuff like that. So I think I've covered everything on my list. Questions from the council?
The bids aren't going out till April?
We'd probably open them sometime in April.
That's not too late. It seems like the earlier out there, the better price you get, isn't it?
you tell me tonight to start the plans, we're gonna get them together as fast as I can, but given the council schedules, newspaper publishing schedules, getting ads into place, I'm thinking early to mid-April, is still within that window. If we were looking at late May or June and trying to get this done by September, I'd be a little more pessimistic.
Do you think that bids will come in around that 4 million too, or where do you think?
I think they come in a little less, is what's been past history.
Just a quick thing, Greg, is you feel totally comfortable, I guess, to me, I get concerned about the school, something don't go right, you run into rock, who knows what happens. Things get delayed a month, and then all of a sudden, we're into the school season. That's kind of the big concern to me in this project up here. I guess, whatever you can do to do that end first, if we got the point where Minnesota Street ain't opened up, but everything is operating at least first 3-4 blocks.
Sure.
So they can come off of 19 and turn down and do their thing. So I guess, I know you're thinking about that stuff, but that's the biggest concern I have is Murphy's Law enters into this stuff, and if it can go wrong, it will. So I guess, my ideal situation on this would have been to do Minnesota Street one year and do the others the next year. But I totally understand that adds cost again and stuff too. So the main thing is I'm concerned about is that we just keep that Minnesota Street operate and the first 3-4 blocks operating. Even if we have to get the second layer on that end, I think we should do that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Add on that, the school, the closer we are to the school, those are all walkers. So that won't be a problem, right? Because all those kids, they don't hop on a bus anyway. So transport won't be a problem there. If that's what you mean, those closest 3 to the school. I think those.
Yeah, the first
Well,
one's
there's-
to the west of the school there.
There's elementary kids there that
Sure.
we pick up.
I still think we would be okay because they could route
Right,
around.
we
A
could
lot of
go
kids ride their
Waters.
bikes on that,
Yeah.
the street that's behind there. So I think we would be okay because it isn't 2 blocks deep, it's only 1 block deep. I still think we'd probably be okay.
Right.
We don't run a bus down that route because it's a dead end by the time you get to the school. So the second street over would be our bus stops anyway. And we can't pick up on a highway, so 19, there's only one on the corner of, I believe it's your street, Grove, and by the cemetery there. But that won't be a problem, so I actually think we'd be okay if you end up going that route.
Okay, thank you.
So at this time, thanks, Greg. We will open the public hearing for resolution number 2327, order and improvement and preparation of plans for the East Side 2 project. If we can get the lights a little bit.
Can I actually use that to show what I
Sure.
need to show?
Sure.
Sure.
For Greg? Are you leaving that up there, I guess? They said tonight that we could come and talk about some additional things. When the school right here ends there, in the design of this, I don't think anyone planned for that to be a problem, but it really is. Our kids race out of there. Chief McCormick can attribute to that. The kids use this as an exit, parents use this as a pickup zone, and we would really like this to be closed. These 4 tenants, these houses here, I'm sure would appreciate that as well. We understand that that's some cost for us, but we think that a curb here, like this is that Minnesota Street, we would like that closed off to the parking lot. School safety is a big thing right now. Everyone's really aware of what's going on around the country. And anytime you can minimize entrances into a school, it really is a good thing, especially a large entrance like that. This serves us no good. Our delivery trucks come in this way. Our students have an access here and through here. Parents, we want them dropping and picking up their kids on this side of the building. This is where our cameras are. This is where the safety of the kids is. This is a huge curb where kids are not walking across the street. We would be willing to put a crosswalk in here. And I know Greg and I can meet later about some of these things, But if you do move forward with this project, I just wanted all of you to be aware that tonight, we would be interested in working with you on adding a curb there, not only for the safety of, our police officers when they come in. I think it would save a lot of headaches along that line. So all we're asking for is, instead of this to be open right into the school, we would like this to be closed off right here. And that would cause less parking with kids in front of these 4 houses as well. Leroy, a little bit about the busing. We've got that worked out. I think that won't be a problem. So if that changes any of your minds, we're good with that, and we can work with you on that as well. So I just thought we'd add that. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to address the council for the public hearing for Resolution 2327 for the East Side 2 project?
I'm Mark Mason. I live on Grove Street, 128 Grove Street, and I just have a clarification question that I'd like to ask Greg from these maps. Since this is the first time that we've heard of this at all, via the letter that came out, I haven't been involved in knowing what was going on and so on and so forth. But my question, a practical question, and it has to do with, I live right here on the curve. This is me.
Go up the hill there.
Okay. The intersection here of Mill and Grove, and then going down this way, is the blue is only going to be the overlay all the way up here. You're not going to go dig into the ground and do sewer.
Correct.
You're not doing anything about storm sewer.
We would probably add some down here at Mill going up the hill
Thank you.
to catch some of that water so it doesn't all
That's
flow onto the intersection.
exactly what I wanted to know, if you were going to do that or had considered it. So, thank you.
I'm Barbara Deacon, and I live on Oak Street North. I'm wondering if you are planning to widen that street, Oak Street North? Because I know it tapers off there.
Yeah, so Oak Street, I'm sure the council's familiar with it. The north end at Water Street is about 20 feet, and then it widens out to 32. That would be a council decision. 32 is our standard, but that's going to impact especially the house in the east side at Water Street, because all that widening would probably have to go to the east into that bank. So the street probably functions fine as it is. That might be a design question farther on that I'd come back to you and say, hey, do we build it, put that one back as is, or do we force 32 feet through that right away?
I'd be the house that you're referring to.
I probably guess what her answer would be to that question.
Right now, it's a very lightly used street.
It's very traffic calming, that 20 feet.
Yes. And as far as emergency vehicles, I've had one at my house. My former neighbor across the street has had one at her house, and there weren't any problems with that. If you widen the street, I will lose 6 trees. I will have to move my irrigation system. My house sits up higher than the street, and it would be kind of cutting into the hill on my yard, and would create a very sharp decline, which would make it almost impossible to mow there. It would probably require a retaining wall. And so for those reasons, I would really...
You've researched it. You know exactly what would happen if that
Well,
street got wider.
I've lived there for over 40 years, and it's been no problem.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council under public hearing for Resolution 2327? Larry?
Yes, I'm Larry Demmer, Almond Street. Just curious about, you mentioned 6-inch versus 8-inch water mains there. I guess if you go with the bigger water main, that's going to sustain the pressure, I think, for the rest of us who live north of that project. Would that be correct?
As part of that 2009 study, we did a water distribution plan, and that's not necessarily accurate. We'd probably do 6-inch in most of that, with the exception of Minnesota. We'd probably put in an 8. You put the bigger pipe in there, it takes longer for that water to get turned over.
Okay. So it
So,
won't affect the pressure or anything, or the volume? Okay. And then
I
the
can tell you that is one problem that I always get worried about with water mains is where's the limit where you get too big and you start getting stagnant. And then where's the point where you're too small, they can't keep up with the volume? So Greg makes a very good point there that oversized mains is not always a good thing. So that's where his engineering comes in.
And the other thing is the material you use for the water pipes. There's plastic been used, I think, for the first time in the city on the first East Side project. Frankly, I think it's changed the taste of the water. It might be my imagination, but I know you had problems with freezing and so on, not being able to charge those pipes to thaw them out. So I think it'd be a good idea to stay with the standard material.
I think what happened in freezing in that one, there was, like a dead end, and there was a loop. But what happened is they did not open the loop. They found that later. So there hasn't been a problem since that I know of.
If
So,
that problem is not an issue, then
but,
that would
so,
address
I mean,
my
that's kind of what came back to us on that.
One last issue, I mentioned to Greg one time before about, there's one block area on Stoughton Street, that's just north of where I live, that has not been paved. In both of these projects, or is not destined to be paved at this point. It's been patched a couple of times. There's no need to replace any of the infrastructure underneath it and so on, but I'm just wondering if that can be included, just the overlay on this project.
Why did that get missed?
It wasn't originally included in East Side 1 because they were building 1 or 2 houses on the north side at that time. And we didn't have it in this one at this point because we thought that the condition was such that we could probably, it's good enough where we didn't need to do it. We can definitely add it if the council chooses to, but it's not been noticed, so we would not be able to assess the folks on that one if we added it to this point unless we went through the whole notification and hearing process again. But it can be added.
Could we get an alternate on that to add that?
Yeah.
And then at least see what the numbers are and go from there?
You mentioned at one time that that could possibly be handled as maintenance, though. Is that
Well,
a
the city
possibility?
does do mill and overlay as a standalone line item in their budget, I believe, under Public Works. And it could be handled under that maintenance too, and not necessarily as part of the project.
It's
I don't know what they put in this year for mill and overlay in the budget or not.
Okay, well, that's another possibility there, because the sewer, water, pipes, everything else is fine underneath. Curbing is okay. It's just it would be passed up on these 2 projects if this isn't considered at this time. So that's really all I have. So.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to address the council for Resolution 2327?
Kevin Lindahl, 421 North Bridge Street. My property was assessed with the Bridge Street, and I'm still paying on those assessments. My property shows it's fronted here. I don't have a pencil or anything to show anybody here. Get something? This is my property right here, this long lot. You see there? I'm coming off of Bridge Street. Everything, my water, sewer, I replaced everything off of Bridge Street. I know the assessing, there's no assessment on the lot across from me, which is the same size as mine. He comes off of Bridge Street also. I'm just wondering why I'm shown as an assessed.
The assessments aren't necessarily to do with where your services are. It's to do with the street that was done. Bridge Street was done from Minnesota north in 2013. From Minnesota south was back in 2001, 2002, I think. So we'd have to double check. So since you were not included in the 2013 assessments, that's why you're included in this one.
But I'm still paying assessments.
That could be from the 2001 project, so we'll have to look with, Linnell and I have to look into that.
Okay.
That's why you were on here, because you were not in the 2013 one.
Okay, that was just an overlay of that street?
No, that one got new curb and storm sewer on that block of bridge.
Storm sewer. There was no utilities, though?
Not sewer and water in that
No.
block, I don't think.
Okay. That was done in the earlier one then?
Yeah.
Because Bridge Street was done all the way down. I know that. All right. So the assessments on a property, that's length, size, whatever, is based on what again?
The assessments are on a per lot or per unit basis,
Per unit?
Yep.
Okay, no size-wise, anything?
not on the residential ones. They're all
Okay.
one.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody else wishing to address the council under the?
Hi, I'm Chuck Bracken, and I live at 117 Grove Street. And just a point of interest, I have to agree with Mark Mason, my neighbor. When neighbors get this kind of a letter, very generic, and I'm sure you can't include all of your intentions, just to let you know, I had jet black hair before I got this letter. So I've used that joke a lot. Anyhow, so you actually answered all my questions that I had like 6 pages of questions prior because of the letter. But seeing that Grove Street is just going to be a mill and overlay instead of sewer and pipe and sidewalks, certainly don't need sidewalks up there. But the thing I just heard moments ago, I liked even better, that could just be part of your general maintenance instead of being assessed. I'll vote for that. Who wants to vote? Okay, that's all I had.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else wishing to address the council under the public hearing?
Kathy Tilderquist, 616 East Minnesota. I heard you talk about storm sewers in alleys. My alley is awful. The water that accumulates on the end of the people who live facing Water Street and on the end of our driveway is sometimes like inches deep. I mean, not just a little bit. And basically, it didn't start out that way. We've lived there since 1976. And it's because the alley has come up over the years and our driveways have not. We've got a real big problem. The alley has now been paved and it didn't make any difference in the problem. So if you're thinking about storm sewers and water in alleys, consider ours. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council under Resolution 2327 for the public hearing? If not, at this time? I have one. Okay.
My name's Kyle McMonagle. I live at 114 Minnesota Street West. I would say I'm probably the newest and youngest homeowner here, so.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. As part of that, this is a learning opportunity for me, so I was wondering what the assessment period is for the payable portion of it once it becomes assessed, how long that assessment period is.
They
Is it
have,
15
that
or-
wouldn't be set tonight, it would be in the letter, but Linnell could probably speak to what traditionally the council has done. It's up to the council to set those terms.
Okay.
Yeah, traditionally, for a project similar to this, it's been a 15-year assessment.
Okay.
And the last few assessments that we have completed, the interest rate has been about 5%. But it will depend on what the bonds come in when we go out for our bonds this summer.
Okay.
Or spring. So that may change. What would happen is when the assessment hearing is held, you will have the opportunity to come in a similar situation as tonight for a public hearing, and you can discuss the assessments at that time. We'll have the final assessment amounts and the set period at that will be all figured out for that meeting. If you do nothing and everything moves forward and it's approved, then those assessments will appear on your property taxes, and they're paid with the property taxes. The homeowners also have an opportunity to prepay any assessments so that they don't incur any interest charges.
Oh, sure.
So that is an option that you would have, but it has to be paid, I believe, within 30 days of the date of the adoption or something like that. I'd have to verify that, but that information, pardon me? Okay.
Okay.
The attorney said that was right, so.
Perfect.
Yeah. So you would have the option to do that. There's also a deferment program that is offered for senior citizens that maybe would have trouble making those payments on that. So that is something that would be discussed at that time as well.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
And then I had a construction logistics question in terms of usefulness of the street
Yep.
over the course of the project, I guess.
So in the reconstruct areas, the red areas, Minnesota Street, at portions during the day, you won't be able to get in your driveway if it's on Minnesota Street, but at night, we'll have everything closed back up. It'll be a dirt surface for quite a while. And then in the morning, in the section they're working on, you'll have to get out, and then won't have access directly while they're in front of your property. Emergency vehicles, we make accommodations for. That typically lasts a few days, a couple different times, because the water, sewer, and storm are installed at different times, so it seems like we're digging the street up in the same place for 3 reasons, but it's part of the process. And then when the new curb and gutter is installed, you won't be able to park in your driveway for about a week while that cures, but you will be able to park in the street in front of your house, because that'll be back to gravel by then. And then once the curb is cured and you can get in your driveway and we do the paving, that can be done under traffic, and then we're pretty much out of your hair by that point.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council under the public hearing for Resolution 2327, the East Side 2 project? If not, at this time, we will close the public hearing. And I will take a motion to approve the adoption and resolution ordering the East Side 2 improvement project in preparation for plans.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by John, second by Ken. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thanks, Craig.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Just one clarification, should we keep Oak Street the same width? Okay.
Only because of the trees.
Yeah.
We're saving, yeah, definitely the trees.
Trees are worth a lot.
All right, that moves us on to item 7 this evening, the consent agenda. Items of this area of the agenda may be adopted, or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For the folks at home, I will read the consent agenda. Item A is the just and correct claims for the accounting period ending December the 31st, 2017. Item B are the just and correct claims for the accounting period ending February the 15th, 2018. Item C are the meeting minutes for the January 16th, 2018 City Council meeting. Item D are the meeting minutes for the February 8th, 2018 Special City Council meeting. Item E, Resolution 2328, accepting donations of $50 from Boulder Options to the library. Item F, accept Officer Culver's resignation and approve to fill vacant position. Item G, Resolution 2329, accepting donation of $350 from Cannon Falls Cruisers to the Police Department. Item H, accept Rodney Emery's resignation from the Fire Department. Item I, Resolution 2330, recognizing the Cannon Falls School Board. Item J, statutory tort limits. Item K is the farmer's market permit. Item L is a memorandum of understanding for West Anway. Item M is Resolution 2331, accepting donation of $50 from First Farmers and Merchants Bank to the Fire Department. And item N is Resolution 2332, accepting a donation of $100 from Olmsted Medical Center to the Fire Department. Are there any items anybody wishes to bring down this evening?
Mayor, I'd like to pull down I and K.
Okay.
Which one was it, I and what?
I and K.
Oh, thank you.
Item I, Resolution 2330, will become item 8E.
I'll pull F.
Item F. Okay, so item K is a farmer's markets permit. That will be item 8F. And item F will become item 8G. Any other items? If not, the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item I, F, and K.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ken, second by Cedar. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to council business, which the first item is item 8A, separation agreement for Ron Johnson. And everybody has that here in their packet.
The agreement that was distributed this evening is a little bit different than the one that was previously received by the council. There was an error that I made in calculating the vacation and sick leave payout balances, so this just corrects that amount. Or those amounts.
If I may, a question. Is it, yeah, I can see why this would have some tax benefits, but the allocation of B and C, the vacation and sick leave, into the healthcare savings plan, I imagine that's why, is to have a pre-tax sort of thing. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay to do? Clearly, it's okay.
Consistent with your adopted personnel policies.
Okay.
It is legal.
Okay.
It's common.
I'm gonna steal, I don't know if we do that at my work. I'm stealing that. It's a good one.
Any other discussion?
Is everybody comfortable with the 6-month severance pay?
That's in his contract.
In his contract?
Yep. It's actually in his contract.
Yes, it is.
We have to pay it, or?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm sure you knew that before you voted to terminate him.
Yes, I did.
All right. If everybody's in agreement, the chair will take a motion to accept the separation agreement and release of claims for Ron Johnson.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ken. Second by Morris. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item 8B, which is the separation agreement for Tom Bergeson. Based off of what we've got from our city attorney, Roger Knudsen, all of you received that information the other day. I think we should I'll close this meeting to discuss that, and then come back out and let everyone else know that what we're doing there. So if council's in agreement, chair will take a motion to close the meeting at this time based on our attorney and client privileges.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Cedar, second by Ken. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. We will close the meeting. We will retire over to the conference room to discuss this, and then we will report back out and open the meeting at that time. council business for item 8B, separation agreement for Tom Bergeson.
So moved.
Motion by Marsh,
Second.
second by Cedar. To reopen. This time, we are back open. At this time, we went in, had a discussion with the lawyer. At this time, Chair will take a motion to move the separation agreement and release of claims for Tom Bergeson with a 6-month severance as discussed.
So moved.
And benefits.
And benefits, yes.
And benefits, yeah.
Ken moved. I'll second.
Motion by Ken, second by Cedar. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. And Roger, you will take that back to him and let us know on that, or?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That moves us on to item 8C, which is to discuss a timeline and process to fill these vacancies that have been created. As we all know, we've been fortunate enough to have Wes and Linnell step up in interim positions here. But that means more on their plates, more things that they have to do. The summer's coming, there are going to be more projects down at Public Works that are going to be going on. There's more projects in the city that are going on. There's the finance stuff. Have we gotten through all of our stuff for the, I'm losing one little bit of train of thought I had. For the audit, is the audit done? I mean, do we have them coming in yet, or?
Currently, the auditors are scheduled to be here the week of March 12th. I'm hoping to still maintain that schedule. I haven't been able to get to the financial stuff quite as much this last week and a half as I normally would, but I'm confident that I can still make that time or that deadline work. And so we should be able to move forward with the audit as scheduled.
Okay. But not only that, I mean, we have elections this year. We'll have our budget that'll have to start being worked on this summer. So a lot of stuff has to go on, and it just puts a lot of extra on everybody else's plate. So I know it's one of those things that comes with running a city or running a business. When you have to replace people, sometimes there's extra cost involved, but we need to find the right people and be happy with those folks. I did reach out to, you have this in your packet, DDA Human Resources. They're out of Faribault. Everybody just got this tonight. It's another way to look at this. They can advertise, they can do everything we need based off of what we tell them. It does come with a cost, but of about $17,000 to have them do it.
Position, right? Per position.
Per position. But, I mean, even if we just did the one through them, and we could go another route on the other. But they've done this in the past. They've done it for a lot of other cities. They've done it in Lake City and quite a few others. So there are quite a different ways to do it. But if we want to get the right person, we need to do it the right way. And have a professional person. We can, we don't have to agree on this tonight, but we need to do it as soon as, maybe by the next meeting. Have a personnel committee meeting, bring it back with what the personnel committee feels about it as far as whether we go with this. I mean, yeah, we can advertise on the League of Minnesota Cities website like everybody does. I mean, we do get to do that. We could put it out in trade journals, but that doesn't guarantee a lot of things. One of the things that I was told by Gary Wires over there was the fact that if we use this company and that person left within 2 years, the next search would not cost us but a few administrative fees. But they do a lot of checking out everything to make sure that these people fit what we're looking for. With us not having a big human resources department, it might do us well to maybe go this route. So, I mean, it's up to the council on that.
Are we in a big rush to do this? I think we got Public Works, we got West down there, and you got the other side. It's in good hands down there, and I feel Linnell is capable on the administrative end.
They had jobs that they were doing that filled up their days before they had to take on the jobs of people that were eliminated. Having been in that position before, that's not a supportable life. So we need to support those people by at least trying to find someone to share that burden that is a two-person.
I mean, this is going to take
Fair.
3 months at a minimum.
Right.
By the time we get it advertised, by the time we find the candidates, by the time we interview them, by the time some of them give their 30-day notice at another job. Because a lot of, if there's a city administrator or another administrator somewhere, they may have to give a 30-day notice because that's in a lot of them's contracts.
Does it seem like Personnel Committee should take the lead on evaluating the different courses of opportunity and then make recommendations to the council?
I think that might be a good idea.
Okay. When's the next Personnel Committee meeting?
We're planning it for this first March 6th.
There you go.
I just put it on the agenda so we could
Yeah.
get the discussions going
Oh, sure.
tonight.
Yep.
This was the first opportunity we've had. I just kind of wanted to see what direction the council wanted to move forward.
Mm-hmm. It's fair.
Can I make a little comment, Robbie?
Sure.
I've been thinking about this, and the one thing that I don't like about it is I think this is where it's going to go. We're going to run the ads and do all this stuff. But I think we have our own talent in our own staff that we can move up and know the quality of these people. I'm not going to give you any names tonight, but staff has got a hold of me about this, and we've talked about it. But before we get too carried away and jump into this and spend money to do this and that, just a for instance would be is if, say, Dave Maroney would be interested in that, I feel we could move him up if Wes Amway feels comfortable with he's doing. I have been told that there's some part-time people that we could move into Public Works. So I really think if this was discussed a lot, we could almost do it in-house. And I like that because we have evaluation of our local people and know who they are. If we are going to do another deal where we go out and hire all new people to come in, I definitely want to see an evaluation period with these people, not accepting any big contracts right away. I would like each council members, if we ended up hiring new people, to send a letter to the new hiree and say what their expectations are of them people and stuff, and do it a lot different than it was last time. But I do feel that right now, if people would talk around a little bit, we have it in-house and we could solve this very easy. So just keep an open mind about that. I ain't saying that's the answer, but I do feel we've got our own talent. Thank you.
And we will discuss that at the Personnel Committee next meeting.
One thing I do hope is that we come up with at least a strong position description for each person so that we have a way to hold them accountable, but then they also know what their expectations are before they even approach the job.
Mm-hmm.
It hopefully mitigates any problems that may arise.
It's good practice.
Okay, with that being said, we kind of know which direction we're going to go, so we'll discuss it on March 6th at the Personnel Committee and go from there.
And you know, the other thing, Robbie, is, and sometimes it's almost like the personnel gets sick of hearing it, but we had a good snowstorm here. Everything got taken care of. I've had people call me and said, just get a hold of Nell, and I never heard back from them. So we're going along. Our people step up when they have to. It's just the way it works, and it's very much appreciated.
Yep. Right. We have nothing else on that. We'll move on to item 8D, which is the update on the bank signature cards. We're required to have two live signatures on our accounts payable and payroll checks due to the recent changes. We need to authorize the bank signature, update the bank signature cards by appointing the following employees as approved signatories. Myself, Lyman Robinson, Dave Maroney, and Linnell Indris. So Chair will take a motion to update the bank signature cards as noted.
Second.
Motion by Morris, second by Ken. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Moves us on to item 8E, which is Resolution 2330, recognizing the Cannon Falls School Board. And since you brought it down, I will read it, since usually we do that every year. And since Beth is here, I will read it. City of Cannon Falls, Goodhue County, Minnesota, Resolution 2330, resolution recognizing the Cannon Falls School Board. Whereas the City of Cannon Falls recognizes the importance of public education, our community, and whereas the City of Cannon Falls appreciates the vital role played by those individuals who, as local school board members, establish policies to ensure an efficient, effective school system, and whereas school board members serve as a voice that enables our community to preserve local management and control of our public schools, and whereas local school board members are charged with representing our local education interests to state and federal government and ensuring compliance with state and federal law, and whereas school board members selflessly devote their knowledge, time, and talents as advocates for our school children, whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Cannon Falls recognizes and salutes the members of the Cannon Falls School Board by proclaiming February 19th through the 23rd, 2018 as School Board Recognition Week. Adopted by the City Council, Cannon Falls Resolution, this day, 20 February 2018, signed by Lyman Robinson, Mayor. At this time, the Chair will take a motion to approve Resolution 2330.
So move.
Second.
Have a motion by John, second by Morris. Any discussion?
I brought this down for a particular reason.
Okay.
And just contextually, it was that today I was inspired by recent events, as many of us have been, to think about the safety of our students in Cannon Falls. And so I asked Roger, the city attorney, by email, a brief question. He immediately had the answer because the League of Minnesota Cities has opined on it. Is there any hurdle, a constitutional one I thought was likely, to enacting a city ordinance, I'm not saying I'd have support for it, banning the possession of an AR-15 within city limits? Just for spitballing ideas. And it turns out there is a prohibition against such a thing. The state of Minnesota passed a law in 1985 which requires local government bodies, cities and counties, prohibits them from enacting any law that differs in any way from what the state has in place. So they can't vary. So we can't do that. And in lieu of such actions, I would like to invite Beth to tell us about the active shooter preparedness, which I'm sure our school has engaged in for the when and if such an event were to occur here.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I didn't know I was going to be asked this tonight, so
I know.
that's just totally fine. But thank you for recognizing our school board. They really do take the safety of our students very, very seriously. On that note, I'd also like to thank our local police department, and I know you guys all support that. It's a very unique thing. When I talk to my colleagues in Byron or Casson or things like that, they may have a county police department or sheriff's department. We have local. We had an incident this week, and you as a parent know that, and they were there within seconds. And I think that's really, really important to thank all of you for that. As far as being prepared for active shooting and preparedness for that, it gets kind of tricky. There's lots of theories out there, and there's a lot of things. We've obviously been reviewing our safety committee. My gosh, how many meetings have we had now? Many. We're meeting with the Hastings Public Schools tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. They have been through the ALICE training methods, some good, some bad, being prepared for that. We've given our teachers tools in their classrooms. If they want something special or something unique, we've allowed them to do that. The reason why we're meeting with Hastings, if you remember correctly, they had a shooting in their school. And that principal that was directly involved with that has taken huge leaps in the state of Minnesota. And to have a resource that close for us to learn from, he's coming down tomorrow. Most likely, we will move ahead with ALICE training. That'll be the school board to decide if that's the method we want to go. I feel really good about our safety program that we have at school. If you notice, we all have a new fob system, and however simple and easy that sounds, it's $300,000 that we dedicated to the safety of securing our buildings. A topic that came up today at 9 o'clock at our administrative meeting is we struggle with being open to the public. We have this beautiful field house, and people like to walk. Well, how do we do what we want to do on our safety committee and still allow everyone to come into our building anytime they want? And so there's some struggles that we're having internally on that as far as letting people into our building. We know these people, but what do we do if a stranger wants to come in and walk? Those types of things. Everyone has to go through the offices now, so we are in what's considered a soft lockdown. When I went to school, and any of you went to school, we didn't have to do that. I like having open doors and welcome to our school. Come to lunch anytime you want. So it's a little difficult for me personally to tell parents that they can't always be in our buildings. But to answer your question, we have not been through formal training. I've been in the military for many years, so I feel like I'm mentally prepared for something that would happen. That doesn't mean our staff is, and so it's really important that we get them trained. I don't know if ALICE is the route we'll go. I can't even tell you exactly what that stands for, but it's a program to be ready for that, and it's very popular amongst the schools. But again, what we've done is invested a large amount of financial backing and the training internally that we feel is working. But now we need to make a decision how open we want to be, and that includes walkers. And we have a lot of people that walk in our field house every day. So didn't exactly answer your question, but I'll know more actually at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning which direction we're going with that.
I think having it be under active consideration is all that we can ask,
Right.
right? We just,
And it's interesting, we're not being reactive to the things that happened last week. This has actually been going on. We've been at this most recent stuff for probably the last 4 months. Just knowing that we probably need to, doesn't mean a kindergarten teacher knows how to react or a 10th grade English teacher knows how to react to these situations. Currently, our students are trained and they go through 9 drills a year to hide in the corner, lock the doors, turn the lights off, all those things that we've been trained to do, but now there's some research showing let the kids run. And we're working on some of those things too. So again, very happy to have a local police department that works very well with us, and support from the city has always been good, so thank you.
May I ask, I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm not familiar with the system. Could you spell that? Is it Alice? or-
It's like Alice,
Oh,
the name.
Alice.
It is exact, it's an acronym, and there's gosh, I bet, Chief, can you remember what it stands for? Yeah, I can get it
That's
to you.
okay.
It is an acronym. If you Googled it, you'd find it.
I'm sure we will. I just wanted to get it right for the minutes. Thank you.
Just like I say, I mean, when we have things like this happen, and not only affects the schools, but it affects businesses, large and small, communities large and small, and it's always good for all of us to take a look, I mean, even in small-town Cannon Falls, on security and what we do. So, it's a big and tough situation for us all to be in, I mean, compared to what we had growing up, but we'll all get through it. And
Part of
that's
the
just
important work that's entrusted.
paying attention.
Right, part of the
Yep.
important work that's entrusted to the school board, and we thank you for that hard work that you do.
So all those in favor of Resolution 2330?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that moves us on to item 8F, which is the farmer's market permit.
Would you like an explanation, or do you have a specific question?
I pulled it down because we had, a member of our public address it earlier, and I have heard some Cliff Notes versions of some of the farmers market meetings.
Okay.
So my question is there a reason the city can't say officially, yeah, go to Grandpa's Garage? Isn't that where this is trending, really?
It's a long, complicated answer, but I won't go there. I'll just give you kind of an update of what's going on, and Morris and Robbie will be familiar with this because we spent a lot of time at the Economic Development Authority with not just the farmers market, but also the notion of a food hub as well as Artisan Plaza. So here's what I see happening, at least in 2018 so far. David Olson at Artisan Plaza will have a farmers market. The Economic Development Authority, the interim board of directors for the Cannon Falls Farmers Market, David Olson, and city staff are working together to formulate the food hub component of the farmers market. And in the simplest terms, the food hub is a program that will aggregate the products that are brought from the farm to the farmers market that may not be sold at the farmers market, will be made available through the proper licensing to for purchase by institutions such as the hospital, the school district, Twin Rivers Senior Housing Development, and local restaurants. So it's creating another market opportunity for the farmers and the vendors under this notion of a food hub. That can't operate logistically or from equipment and services. It can't operate downtown. It's better suited at Artisan Plaza. So we, working through the Economic Development Authority, have been supporting the food hub component of the farmers market. So what we've been trying to figure out then is if there's going to be a farmers market, which there will be at Artisan Plaza, supported by the food hub, which is being supported by the Economic Development Authority, what happens to the farmers market downtown? And that's been what we've been struggling with, at least to this point. And as Arlen said, Arlen's one of our vendors who's here, who spoke at the opening public comments, asked that the council make a decision as to whether or not the farmers market will or will not be allowed to operate from its downtown location, the municipal lot. And that's what my memorandum is addressing. So what we're proposing, after conversation with the interim board and also with the EDA, some vendors, David Olson, what we're proposing to the council is that there could be potentially 2 farmers markets operating this year, one at Artisan Plaza and the other one in a different location. Now, the different location could be in the historic location, the downtown parking lot, or it could be on privately owned property. But depending on where it locates, public property or private, determines kind of what the rules of the market will be. So what I've suggested in the memorandum is that if the farmers market vendors wish to operate a market outside of Artisan Plaza, with your approval, they'd be allowed to do that. But depending on where they would locate would determine what they have to do, what kind of information they have to provide to the city. If they're going to operate in the municipal parking lot, it's proposed as kind of the similar rules as existed the last couple of years as they've operated in the market. But it's going to be the vendor's responsibility to bring the program to staff. Staff will review it under the conditions that I outlined in my memorandum, and then bring it to the city council for approval. So the vendors would have the responsibility of designing their farmers market in the municipal parking lot, if that's where they want to operate. There's been conversation that maybe they'd be in the park and ride facility. That's municipally owned land, same thing. They would have to develop a plan, bring it to city staff, we'd bring it to the city council. If they go on a private piece of property, we're not involved with the ownership of the real estate, and suggesting that we would only look at it from the land use perspective. That is, where are they operating, and is it permitted by the zoning, is it permitted by local code? We don't know where that site might be, so it's premature to make that decision tonight or have that conversation tonight. But if they chose a private parking lot or private piece of ground in the city of Cannon Falls, not municipally owned, they would still need to bring their program to us and let us know what they're doing, but it wouldn't be near the oversight that we would have on our property. So the sum total of all the parts is, in this proposed compromise, that if the vendors themselves want to have another farmers market outside of Artisan Plaza, with your approval, they would be given the opportunity to make that request. And that's kind of the bottom line here.
And that request would go to staff, it wouldn't come back to council?
It would come back to the council if it's on municipal property. And the program itself, Cedar, would be, we've kind of designed this, if they want to be in the same location they've been, it would be similar to what it's operated in the past. They would have the same kind of rules and responsibilities. We just wouldn't be administering that, really. We wouldn't be providing the additional assistance that we have in the past. We would still, on the staff side of it, still working primarily with the food hub component of the farmers market at Artisan Plaza. So it's really going to be truly more operated by the vendors.
Okay.
I got a question for Roger. when I listen to all this here, and I'm not trying to cause problems, but I don't know why Grandpa's Garage, or what do you call it out there?
Artisan Plaza.
Yeah, why is that even entering into our conversation here? Because that's a commercial business out there. Why aren't we just talking about our local farmers market in our property? Is that actually okay? I mean, to me, it makes it sound, and I don't like this, it makes it sound like because of what we did out there, it's causing a problem down here, and I don't think it has to be. I don't see any reason not to have two farmers markets, and I don't know what it's got to do with Grandpa's Garage.
Roger hasn't worked
Yeah.
closely with me, and I'll take a stab at not answering for you, but giving you kind of the rest of the lay of the land. Last year with Artisan Plaza, then Grandpa's Garage, a conditional use permit was issued to David Olson for his overall development plan. And part of the development plan included a farmer's market. Didn't have to be a publicly administered farmer's market, but under the zoning and the land use code, he needed that as part of his conditional use permit. So that was issued. So he's got the right, under our zoning, David Olson in this case, has the right to develop and operate a farmer's market at
And I
Artisan
agree with
Plaza.
that.
Yep.
I
So
totally agree with that.
So that's why.
But what I don't like is, for the council here is, the more I read this, the more I realize we're losing the small town personal touch here. Everything is getting out of hand again. I'm talking about, I've got some over 70-year-old friends that love to bake their pies and do their things and go down there and get their $10, $12 pies. And we're telling them that they're supposed to get a $200 permit for the year. They're supposed to go to their insurance company and get a $400 bond. And these people have no ill intent. They're going down there trying to do the right things, and they enjoy the way things used to be. So to me, the farmer's market is strictly up to the people that want to do that. If you want to grow an extra 12 branches of tomatoes and bring them down there and sell them, I don't know why that isn't a good thing. And I don't feel the city should be liable for this, but I certainly don't see that we got to go through all this paperwork, and we just make it more complicated for people. And we've been operating this way for years. I know the last few years we've gotten where we try to control where they park and to try to make things safer. There's been some people that are in charge or that Dave can talk to or city can talk to. I truly believe everybody's down there should be registered. Now, if you want them to give you $5 to register, that's fine with me. Get $5. If you want to sell down there year-round and pay $150, go for it. But to start charging for insurance and bonds, and we're not responsible, I think farmer's market is supposed to be about organic and stuff that is better for you. And the whole thing of just commercializing it and bonds and insurance and all this, I think is just wrecking it. And the other example I'll give the council is that 3-4 years ago, Aaron Reeves and I worked on, because we were getting so many complaints on the parking lot being full and traffic problems and all this. So Aaron and I and some of the other ones sat down and had a good meeting and decided, you know, let's take the overflow parking lot and let's just make that a farmer's market. They can put picnic tables there. They can park the way they want to. We thought we had a hell of a plan. And we turned around and did that, and everybody in town got angry over it. They wanted it downtown in the parking lot. So I'm just saying, we've been coasting along. Things are okay. I really don't want to disturb a sleeping dog here. And I want to wish the Grandpa's Garage Bunch great success. But I also just want to keep it small and simple. And that's what I got to say about it. Thank you.
Leroy, I think the problem is it's on city land. And nowadays with all the laws and all that stuff, pretty much you got to go by and they got to have all this stuff. Now, if they move it to a private land, let's say a church parking lot or something, it's totally different. Am I correct on that?
There will still be some state law requirements
yeah.
on the private or the public, but yeah, getting it off of the municipal parking lot would change the
Right. See, so
situations.
But
That
if
would
we
help
have them
too.
fill out a piece of paper and give us a permit, and give us their phone number, and it says at the bottom of the paper that you're responsible and liable for your own challenges or whatever there are, and the city is totally out of it. If the state made these rules so hard you can't even have a farmer's market anymore, shame on them.
Basically, I think what he's
Alan, you got
asking,
a
basically what we're doing is just asking the city council to approve the farmer's market permit requirements.
Right, but
I mean-
I feel like, Leroy, you're among the people who, in another meeting, will bemoan the lack of parking downtown. I mean, is that not related here? It's in a parking lot that is extremely busy in the summertime. I'm not saying that that's persuasive or that's decisive of the issue, but we can't say, oh, this is just about, I mean, we can't ignore that. So that is a factor. I will say that this proposal, and you said it right, it's a compromise. It's a compromise between sharply divided opinions, is my understanding. Extremely sharply divided
That's fair.
for something that seems like it should be nice and about produce and corn stalks. That said, it feels very much like a compromise that is destined to be temporary at best. It kind of, I mean, I'm sorry, but it feels like an analogy of like when people are engaged, but they break up, but they're going to stay together and just live apart for a while, and you're like, yeah, that's not going to work out for very long. Something's destined to break in this relationship. It's unsustainable in its form, and this is a way, like a patch to get us through a year, right? And see what happens with parking.
It's definitely transition. And-
Okay.
And I'll say, too, that Leroy's brought up the point of the pies, and we've got some vendors here who are fairly significant size vendors. And that's our issue with our vendors, is we have a huge separation between the goals and objectives of some vendors and the others. Some are truly in it for business purposes, others are in it maybe for more social purposes, and there's a lot in between. So the one size fits all, we haven't found that yet. And so I think I would look at this more as a transition year for sure, to see what happens at Artisan Plaza with the food hub and with the farmer's market there. And what, if anything, under this compromise comes from the vendors in terms of an alternative farmer's market. I mean, I don't know, but it's been suggested to us by many vendors who have operated downtown that in their view, having the city involved with the farmer's market hasn't necessarily be a good thing, except that the city owns the land. So that's why we're involved. So again, if there's a better idea, a better way for them to form their market, and we have a more modest participation in that, okay. Because I think, again, the farmer's market permit that was issued to David Olson last year, that's real, and there's going to be a farmer's market there, and it's probably going to be arguably more of an economic and business market,
Right.
although providing foods and everything else that existed downtown. But I think there's going to be a little bit difference there.
All right.
And you make a lot more money out there versus mom and pop selling pies downtown. So, I mean, I'm happy about the Grandpa Garage thing. If the big vendors want to go there and set up a table for 100 feet long, go for it. But you're putting a lot of people out of it that have a love and a passion for just gardening. And you're probably taking them out, if you get rid of the farmer's market downtown, you're getting them out of the picture. And to me, we always make everything commercial. We always got to wreck everything, and that's kind of where I see it going. I mean, if you want to know, is more important to me to have parking for farmer's market, or is it more important for me to have parking for the winery? I want parking for the farmer's market.
And this compromise could do that, Leroy, just so it's clear. And I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say it's 10 vendors who historically have operated downtown, and they don't want to pay a fee to go out to Grandpa's Garage or Artisan Plaza. They want to stay downtown, the 10 vendors. What this plan is saying is they can come to us and say, this is the area where we want to vend in the downtown area, and let's say it's part of the existing parking lot. This is what we want to do. This is how we're going to do it, and they're making the application to staff, bring it to the city council for approval. We're not asking for a payment of a fee. We're not dictating anything to the vendors. We're saying, you tell us. You tell us what you think will work, you 10 vendors, if that's what it is, and where you want to operate downtown. And that's what you would be asked to then permit for at least 2018. Again, would that occur again in 2019, 2020? Don't know. I don't know.
The other thing I'll say to you is, if all this needs to be dealt with, and I think it's a good thing you're taking care of this, but you put it down there this year, you try to keep more of an eye on it, and all of a sudden, because Grandpa's Garage is more, we got more people that want to be downtown, and now there's more of a parking problem, and we got more of a traffic problem, then we got no choice but to deal with it.
Right.
But if Grandpa's Garage get the commercial people out there, and we get the mom and pop people downtown, and it stays the same, I think we should stick with it. But I truly understand that it's a big issue, and it needs to be kept an eye on it.
Like I say, that more than anything is what I think from the input that I've got from vendors and the other folks I've been working with, it's, let's try to find a way to just see what happens this year. And if this really works, then maybe we do it again next year. I don't know. But we don't know yet either exactly what the size and scope will be of the Artisan Plaza Farmers Market either. I mean, there's still some details evolving out there with David Olson's Market. So we'll see.
I think it'll also be good for you to, even if you, 6 months from now in August or something, said, this is what's happening, let's have a workshop, talk more about it. But I'd like to coast the way we are and just keep it the way it is for right now. To stay on top of it.
So do we have a motion to approve the 2018 farmer's market permit?
So moved.
Motion by Ken, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Morris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Move this on to item 8G, which is the accepting Officer Culver's resignation and approved to fill the vacant position. John, you brought that down.
I just want to make a quick point. Right now, you've got 6 full-time and 2 admin, and then Lieutenant Berg and the chief. You do need the 6 people with your scheduling the way it is?
Yes, we, with our 6 patrol officers, full-time patrol officers, and we have 2 part-time patrol officers that will fill in when people are on vacation and training, that type of stuff. What that does is it allows us to have double coverage in the evenings. During the daytime, Lieutenant Berger or I are usually around to provide double coverage in the daytime. The police commission took a fairly extensive look at this last year prior to our making the decision to replace the position currently occupied by Officer Good. And the recommendation then from the police commission was, for the activity that we have, for the size community we have, for the staffing that they want, the staffing of 8 full-time sworn was the appropriate staffing.
Yeah, there seemed to be an urgency to fill that position. I guess I'm thinking along the lines of Leroy, like to promote within. I don't know if there's anybody in reserves.
One of the
here
options that we've used in the past is our reserves. And so we've looked at our reserves. We also have part-time, and, so we've spoken to them. But until we get to the point where council's authorized us to move forward, it didn't seem, prudent to bring them in and say, hey, we'd like to take a look at this. Would you visit with us on it? And get their hopes up, and then find out, oh, sorry, we can't do anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, this time, Chair will take a motion to approve, motion and approval to accept Officer Culver's resignation and approval to fill the vacant position.
So moved.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Ken, second by Morris. Any further discussion?
I would just like to see Jeff to make sure that you thank that person for their time in Cannon Falls and wish them the best.
Officer Colvard, started off with us as a intern, joined our reserve program, and then moved up into our officer's position. So we have, used that conduit to find very good, talented people, and we're continuing to do that. In fact, we were approached this afternoon from somebody that's interested in doing an internship this summer. So who knows, a few years from now, they could be one of the people that we're looking at to fill a position. It's worked out well for us.
Yep, I mean,
If you want to send us a tip for training him too, that'd be fine with us too.
Yes, I am willing to accept a blank check from Red Wing for taking Josh. City will just fill in whatever amount we feel is appropriate.
I mean, as we all know, I mean, it has slowed down over the years. For a while there, we were a swinging door when it came to police officers. They'd come in, be here a year, and then they'd be gone to bigger places. Some of them have found out it's not always greener on the other side of the fence, but that's just what happens. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Moves us on to reports. Anything else? Anything else, Greg? Chief?
Sure. A couple of things. Winter, while seemingly over the other day when it got really warm, isn't quite yet. So I just want to remind people, especially when we get to this time of year, it gets warm during the day, cold at night. We will get icing at the intersections and on the road surfaces. Just be aware of that, especially when you start your day in the morning. The other thing I wanted to mention, Superintendent Geese and Councilmember Abady brought it up, which is the school safety plan. You know, we've worked extensively with our school here. We provide training to all of our officers on active threat trainings, active shooter trainings. I don't like to think of it in the terms of active shooter because it can be more than that. Lieutenant Berg and I prefer to look at it as providing active threat trainings and scenarios. And our police department, our ambulance have worked together for probably half a dozen years in identifying the need to get in to those situations rapidly to intercede and save lives, and we've conducted trainings on that. Now the rest of the industry is caught up with us. We went to a training last year. 3ECHO was the acronym training name, and that's what they're teaching then, or teaching now, is that vast intersection of medics and EMS CERT personnel into the environment wall. It's still dangerous, but using law enforcement as the cover to extract people. So I think, as an approach, the mayor was right. It can happen anywhere, including a small town like Cannon Falls. But I'm very confident that our staff has been following what's going on in the industry and staying at the leading edge of the approaches that we take. Just this morning, I did a training for one of the businesses in town for their staff on active threats. It's a service we provide to any one of our businesses. We work extensively with the school district. If you are a business in town and you want to have myself or Lieutenant Berg come out, we do an assessment of the facility, the business, things that they could consider, things that could change, and then take a look at what currently they're doing and provide them with some options and things that they can do to implement with their staff. We're more than willing to come out and provide trainings to the staff. Certainly we aren't going to write the plans for them because every plan is different, but we will provide our expertise in guiding them in areas that we see are problematic. So I just wanted to touch on that.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger, you got any other words of wisdom for us tonight?
Not tonight.
Linnell?
I just have a couple of things. I wanted to mention that the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has announced the 2017 wastewater treatment facility operational award recipients, and the Cannon Falls wastewater treatment plant is again one of those recipients. The award recognizes permittees for ensuring that the facility was overseen by a properly certified operator or skilled professional. The facility did not exceed the effluent limits contained in the permit. The required monthly and annual reports were timely and complete, and the facility did not experience any unauthorized releases, enforcement actions, or inspections identifying significant compliance concerns. So our wastewater treatment plant will again be presented with a certificate of commendation at the annual wastewater operations conference. And they said congratulations to the recipients and thank you for your efforts to protect the waters of Minnesota. So I just wanted to acknowledge our wastewater treatment plant operator. I think he is here tonight, actually. Wes Anway, if you're not familiar with who that is. And so I just wanted to make sure that that was acknowledged, and congratulations to the wastewater treatment plant.
If you guys do a good job down there, Wes, and thanks for all your guys' hard work. pass it on to your crew for us. And we thank them for all that they do.
And the only other thing I have this evening is, I think it was in January, it was brought to the council, the discussion on our ordinance and the number of dogs that are allowed by our current ordinance. Was brought up, and we didn't really get a reaction from the council, and if they're interested in us pursuing, taking a looking at that. I have talked to Police Chief McCormick about this, and it might be time to kind of review the ordinance in a larger scale of what is actually required by the city in licensing, or maybe not licensing, the number of dogs, things like that. So I guess I would just like some input from the council, or at least a nod to say, yes, look further into this, or no, we're not interested, don't waste any more time on it. We do have a resident that is asking about this as well, so I just wanted to be able to have an answer for her too.
That must have been at the January 2nd meeting.
It was a January meeting. I don't
I would
recall
remember.
which one.
I would remember. It's
Okay.
definitely January 2nd. And right now, the ordinance prohibits more than 2, right?
No.
No.
2 is our limit.
Two.
And actually, when we did
That's prohibiting more than 2 means
we can have,
you can have 2.
you can
Cedar
have
just
2,
said it in
but
a
not-
lawyerly
I'm sorry.
manner.
Great.
Yes.
We're saying the
2
same
is
thing.
the
Sorry,
max.
Sorry, yeah.
Okay.
2 is the maximum that our ordinance currently allows.
And someone wants to have more.
Someone wants to have 3. They have show dogs that they wanted to keep in their home. Yes. And we did a quick poll of surrounding cities and communities, and we were the only one that had 2. There were several that had 3, and I do have that here in front of me. There's some that have 4, several that have 3. There's one that has 6. There's a couple that have no maximum. Some that require a kennel license over a certain amount. So there's different ways of going about it. I'm just wondering if it's something that you would like us to look into further.
I would think we probably should. I mean, at this point, I mean, it's been brought up to the council more than once, so I think we should possibly look into it and
Very much so.
look at it again.
Would council want staff to do research then on some proposed ordinance changes, bring them back into one of the committees?
Let me bring it back to police commission,
Police
and,
commission.
because, I mean, you guys are gonna be the ones that usually enforce it anyway.
Okay.
I'd like to have a police commission meeting anyway, Jeff, and I think it'd be good to discuss that. I mean, what I look at it is if there's some case where somebody has show dogs or has more dogs, maybe we issue a special permit for 1 year at a time, and then if there's no complaints, then they can renew it, but if we get complaints, then they can't. I mean, I don't know, but I think it should be discussed.
Yeah, and right now, the police commission is down its resident citizen member. The mayor, I just recently passed on some stuff too. So hopefully we'll get somebody in that position, and then we can schedule a meeting for them.
I just got the names today, so. Anything else?
All right, thank you. No, that's it.
Peter?
No, thank you.
Ken?
Well, I like to thank the Chamber of Commerce. They've started putting out a newsletter, letting people know what's going on. What?
There's always been a newsletter. They've just
Uh,
changed the
But it's
format.
weekly now.
Before, it was rarely coming.
Oh, I got it every month.
And I understand our new brewery is supposed to be opening very soon, so well, I have to go check that out.
Nope. I'd just like to say thanks for everybody's hard work tonight. Also, congratulations to the Bomber high kick team that went to state. I think they finished 5th this year, but they at least made it again. So congratulations to all those gals that worked hard all year on that. And with that, I'll be doing the state of the city address on Thursday morning here in the chambers. And other than that, have nothing else. Chair takes a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.